Let's take a look at problem 11.6a. We're doing impairment testing. Now, this is one of the areas where US GAAP and IFRS are fairly far apart. And so I've got two versions here. Part 1 will solve using US GAAP, and in part 2, we'll solve it using IFRS. Let's jump into it. Cascade Timber operates a specialized lumber mill. Due to a strict new environmental regulation restricting logging in the area, the company believes its main saw line machinery may be impaired. As of December 31st, 2031, the following data is available regarding the machinery. So we got machinery that's on the books for 1.2 million, 500K of depreciation. So the net book value of our equipment is 700,000. And we just sort of consider it and we go, you know, the fair value of this stuff is 6. The resale value anyway is 600,000. Right? You're thinking, I'm listing an asset for 7. I could only really sell it for 6. I might have an impairment issue. Management estimates the machine will generate the following net cash flows over its remaining 4-year useful life. So we want to test this against our expected cash flows to see if we're impaired or not. 220 plus 200 plus 180, that's 600 plus 140. So our expected future cash flows are 740,000. It notes the appropriate discount rate is 8%. Well, that is for IFRS. IFRS discounts these cash flows. US GAAP doesn't. US GAAP just tests against the just the future cash flows not discounted. So US GAAP says, well, my future cash flows from this machine are going to be 740. I'm carrying it at 700. No problemo. I am not impaired here. So determine if the asset is impaired. It is not impaired, not impaired. If it is, calculate the impairment loss. Well, there's no impairment loss to calculate. If it's not impaired, explain why. And the reason why is the expected future cash flows are greater than the carrying amount of the asset. If it was below, we would call it impaired. And in fact, part B gets us there. It says, assume that instead of 140, the 2035 cash flows had been 40. So instead of 140, this is 40,000. So it's down by 100. Well, then that is going to be 640. Well, all of a sudden, we're comparing our new cash flow 640 to the net 700, the net book value 700. We go, I'm impaired. Okay, so assume they had been projected to be 40. Under this new assumption, determine the asset is impaired. Yes, it's impaired. If it is, calculate the impairment loss. Okay, this is where I think the quirkiest bit of this is you go, okay, well, logically you might go 700 versus 640. I'm impaired by 60,000. No. The impairment loss is to get us down to fair value. So you got to be careful there. We are impaired by $100,000. The journal entry is debit impairment loss. I guess this will be on December 31st, 2031. We're going to debit impairment loss 100K, and we are going to credit, you can credit the asset directly, so you can credit lumber mill, I suppose would be or saw line, machinery, it's machinery, so credit machinery or machine, 100,000. More commonly, you will credit accumulated depreciation machine for 100,000. And that's it. We have solved it. The impairment loss is 100 grand. There's our journal entry. US GAAP, easier than IFRS. And that's what we're going to move into here in part 2. So part 2, I don't know why I zoomed so far. Let's leave it all on screen. Part 2 says, under IFRS, determine if the asset is impaired. If it is, calculate the impairment loss and prepare the journal entry. So I'm going to erase some of my green ink. I'll do IFRS in red. And so we're sort of back to the original fact pattern. The net book value is still 700. The fair value is still 6. So we're going, I might have an impairment issue. Time to see what kind of cash flows this asset is generating. And IFRS doesn't just say add up the cash flows. IFRS says discount those cash flows. So it's a tougher standard, right? Discounted cash flows are tougher than just cash flows because they're obviously reducing the value here. So to discount the cash flows, you divide by 1 plus the discount rate to the power of how many periods you're discounting it back. We're going to assume these cash flows happen at the end of each year. So, because we're discounting back 1 full year, 2 full years, even though they likely happen throughout the year, just for simplicity's sake. So we're going to discount this one 2 years, we'll discount this one 3 years, and we'll discount this one 4 years, 1.08 to the power of 4. So we got more calculator work to do here. That's the reason I have my scientific calculator up, because it deals with to the power ofs better than my basic calculator. So divide by 1.8 to the power of 1, which is 1.08, 203,704, 203,704. 200,000 divided by 1.08 squared, 171,468. 171,468. 180 divided by 1.08 cubed. 180 by 1.08 to the power of 3. So I hit x to the y 3. 142,890. And last one, 140 divided by 1.08 to the power of 4. 102,904. Let's sum these up. 203,704 plus 171,468 plus 142,890 plus 102,904, 620,966, 620,966. So in this circumstance, we're below both the resale value and the net future cash flows, net, discounted, are below the value of the asset, the carrying amount of the asset. So we got to write down the asset. Now under US GAAP, we just go, okay, write it down to fair value. Under IFRS, you're going to write it down to whichever is higher, the fair value or the future cash flow. So in this case, we're going to write it down to those expected future cash flows, 620,966. So we got to go from 700 down to 620,966. We got to go down by 79,034. Here's that journal entry. So December 31st, 2031, we debit impairment loss. And the impairment loss was 79,034. I was looking for the number. It's in my calculator. And we credit not AD, we credit accumulated impairment loss. Now, for all intents and purposes, this account behaves the same way as AD. We're just reducing the value of our machine, but we're separating out what's an impairment loss from depreciation. So a little bit different, maybe a little bit more explanatory, that credit under IFRS, but it's same idea, certainly in principle. Okay, so we've done it, 79,034. Next piece says, I'll change my ink color here. It says, assume that instead of 140, 2035 cash flows were 250. So they're a little bit higher here. So this one is not 140 anymore. It's 250 divided by 1.08 to the 4. Is the asset impaired? Well, obviously the point of this is to show you, well, this is what it would look like if it wasn't impaired. We just did it when it was. So let's do the math on this though. 250 divided by 1.08 to the power of 4, it's 183,757. 183,757. And so I'm just going to add, now these cash flows didn't change. So there's 203 plus 171 plus 142 plus 183. And I'm going to get my discounted cash flows under, part D. So 203,704 plus 171,468 plus 142,890 plus 102,904 equals 620,96. No, I added the wrong number. I've done this before. Let me just re-add that. Sorry, I added this one because I was in the list. I'm going to scratch it out so I don't mess this up again. 203. I re-recorded a video because I did this earlier. I did exactly that mistake. I'm not re-recording this one. I'm just going to get it right this time. Plus 171,468 plus 142,890 plus, and then 183,757. I thought writing it in blue, putting all the pluses, I was going to get it right, and I managed to screw it up. 701,819. So we look at this and we go, all right, this is higher than the 700,000, and therefore the impairment test is passed, right? This is not impaired. So I don't know if it's failed or passed. It's not impaired. So not impaired. Why not? Because the present value of those expected cash flows, discounted cash flows, are higher than the carrying amount of the asset. Therefore, even though the resale is low, it's going to generate enough cash flow that it's not impaired. That's the answer to part D. And there we have it. We've solved 11.6a. As always, thanks for hanging in there till the end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. The next video in our series is right up here. And if you want a supercut of all of the videos in this series, that's the one down below.